Hello, I'm Dr. Zambrowski, psychoanalyst, psychoanalyst. On this occasion, I'm going to try to throw some ideas about this movie by Xavier Dolan. He's Canadian, and the name, the title of this movie is Mommy. First of all, I want to say that exactly that the pronunciation of this word is also the one as mommy. I mean those corpses that had been that can be mummified. No? So this is something to bear in mind when we talk about this movie. Well, if we say that there is, if we are going to talk about a mommy, it means that we are going to talk about a mother, and for being a mother, it's necessary the presence of a son, of a child, so as to say. So, in this case, we are going to see the relationship between an adolescent and his mothers, and later I'm going to say why mothers in the plural. Well, let's talk about this boy who has been a very special one. I mean, we know that he has had some kind of problems in the primary school. He was very the diagnosis he was given was of a TDA. He was always moving, he was always talking, he couldn't concentrate, and all those things that are said about this syndrome. So he has been on medication since he was very little. But all the problems get worse when his father dies, that is to say 3 years before. And at that moment, he became a very, very difficult adolescent. A very difficult adolescent in the sense that he began to get together with some people that use drugs. He robbed. He was very, very difficult, and he got very, very violent. So he was kicked out from his school, and his mother doesn't know what to do with him. So he is put at a school in which he is supposed to be the whole week, and only the weekends he's allowed to go out only with his mother. But precisely the movie begins when this mother, Diane, receives a phone call because she's supposed to take out his son from that institution because he has set fire to the cafeteria, and one of the children there was importantly injured because of this fire. So he comes home, and he is. We can see that he's very, very happy of being at home. He jumps in his mother's bed. He behaves like a child. The first thing he does is asking for his father's photographs, and they are very special for him, and also playing the music that his father used to listen when he was alive and during the trip they had made and all that. But he's a boy that doesn't have any kind of limits, and apparently nobody can put some limits to him. So he has no problem, and the mother doesn't have any problem when he kisses her in the mouth, or he can touches him in a very seductive manner, and there's nothing, there's no stop. But it's not a question that nobody can put some limits to him, but that the mother, mommy, don't allow people, or doesn't allow somebody to put some kind of limits, because there are some situations, for instance, there's an incident in a taxi, and the situation becomes very violent, and the mother, instead of stopping she is in a way stimulating that kind of behavior. Or for instance, when they go to a restaurant, a Burger King or restaurant or something like this, with a lawyer, somebody who is pretending, going after the mother, this boy becomes very violent, and after all the incident in the restaurant, when the lawyer wants to, and he slaps on his face, mommy, Diane, slaps back on the lawyer's face too. So there's no possibility for anybody to put some kind of limit to him. This is the situation is getting worse and worse and worse until the moment when he practically commits. He's trying to commit suicide by cutting his hands at a supermarket, and we can say that this kind of reaction is a kind of, could say, a kind of acting out, in the sense that when there is an acting out, the idea is of calling somebody else's attention and sending this person the message that you have to keep your place, because the word the channel word, in a way, there's too much noise, is not habilitated so as to say. So the only way that has the subject to express himself is by means of action, by acting. That is what Sigmund Freud says, that what isn't act is taught, and when you talk, you don't act. More or less, this is the idea. So this, when he cuts his hands, his wrists, it's a kind of acting out. In which he's trying to say to his mother and to the rest of the world, please stop considering me as an object. I'm not a manipulating object, but a subject, a person, somebody who has, that is to say, who can accept that everything can be done, and because of that, I've got some desire, and I want to live according to my desire. I'm a subject, divided one, let's say, from the psychoanalytical point of view, saying that, but stop considering me as an object. Well, the point is that the situation is getting worse and worse and worse until the moment when, well, there's a fiction, I mean, there's a fictional hypothesis in which the director says that maybe one day there would be a law in which parents who feel that are not capable of being, or I mean, educating their sons in the proper way, or they can't stand or support their children in any sense, they can be asked for certain institutions to be in charge of their children. So this is a supposition, but that's the that is what mommy decides to yes, accepts, and she decides to do that. So this boy is taken to that institution after being his mother lied to him, saying that they are going to go for a trip in the sun, for a picnic and everything. But then she stops at a certain place, at a park, no? And yes, she parks her car, and then a parking lot, and then some people from that institution comes to him, and when he revolts against that, and he becomes very aggressive, then he's taken, submitted, so as to say, by means of electric shocks. Well, we can see at the very end of the movie that he talks to his mother, and he has this kind of I don't know what's the name in English. Well, that kind of well, he can't move his hands, and then and he has been given a number of drugs so as to calm him down. Well, at a certain moment, he can get rid of this kind of, well, I don't know the name, and he runs away, and when this is the end of the film, and we can say that maybe he's going to commit suicide, no? The way he's running away. This kind of behavior, I mean, this running away and directly going to commit suicide, is different from the behavior we have talked about some moments ago, which we were specifying the characteristics of the acting out. And now we can say that this is directly an action without paying attention to anybody. So it's as if the subject would have said, I'm fed up with all this question of considering the other, because the only thing, the only response that I have had is that of being just an object and there being a manipulating object, and I didn't have the possibility of becoming a subject, although I have been behaving, asking, shouting, and acting from different ways to say I want to be a subject. That is to say, put me some limits, because if there is some kind of limit, I can get rid of this mother, of this incestuous mother. I can stop being seduced by this mother, and I could go out and leave this endogamic relationship and get out and go out and look for another woman and who is going to recognize me as a subject, as a person, and not as an object. When somebody decides to commit suicide this way, it is because he can't stand anymore the position of being a manipulating object and an object of a kind of joyance perverted, no? So he prefers to become a dead person as to be an object. That's the position of the subject when he is identified to the worst thing, to the to nothing. When in a way he is identified to the nothing. So if it's nothing, he decides to jump to the nothing. Because that way he's going to preserve his subjectivity, because he's going to be, although dead, he's going to be a name subject, well, who died in determined point, I mean, no, in determined moment. Well, who is this mummy? This mummy is a very special one, you know. It's a very special one in which, because she's all the time thinking for herself. She's very narcissistic, and she's always trying to manipulate people. She's always trying to show off. She's always trying to, she's full of brides, and she's brilliant. She's making noise all the time and calling the rest of the world's attention to her. What can we say of her? Well, there are two lines that we can say about this lady. Well, one is that of a neurotic one, a hysterical one, who accepts that she can't educate her son, so although she thinks, because in that daydream she has, she's thinking of his son becoming a professionist, having a certificate and being very happy with a wife, with a grandson at a party. Everything is beautiful, and she's very, everything is okay. So we can say that daydream of her, tells us about this neurotic woman who can't perform that function of normally takes place, is performed by a father in terms of putting some limits. So she goes to the law, I mean to an institution, to say, well, please put limit to this, to my child, because I can't. So this is going to be good for everybody. You know? In some moments, at some moments in the movie, she's saying that. Well, this is one way of thinking about mommy, but also we can say that maybe she has a desire, a sinister desire in terms of death towards her own son. In these terms, we can say that this boy jumping out of a window or to the emptiness, maybe he's realizing her desire of death towards him. There's a detail very interesting in which when she's supposed to sign certain documents, certain papers, forms that she's given. Her name is Diane, I don't know why, and then Desprez. So she writes down die, D-E-D-I-E. So as if she's the death is in herself, no? This is her neighbor, Kayla, laughs a lot when she realizes about this detail that she signs as died. So we can say, what else we can say about this woman? Well, what we can say, maybe we can deduce from the story is the fact that maybe she was a very unsatisfied woman because, for instance, at a conversation between Kayla and this and Mommy, she was telling Kayla the story of her life, and she said that her husband has discovered something very important for microwaves, something like a heater weaver or weaver heater, I don't know precisely. But and Kayla said, don't tell me that your husband discovered that. Yes, oh yes, that's wonderful. So he has been recognized all over the world, or at least all over Canada, but not her own, his own wife. And she said, yes, we received a lot of money, and then there was nothing else, no more money. So, and then he dies in terms of 3 months or something. He dies, I think out of cancer, if I'm not wrong, and full of debts. So we can assume that maybe she was a very unsatisfied woman, and she was always asking for more and more and more. And when this man couldn't stop, he died. So because of this and because of what is happening to her son, we can say that maybe this line of thoughts maybe are the proper one. No, there was some kind of death in herself. On the other hand, let's talk about Kayla, the neighbor who lives just in front of the house, and she has lost, she was a teacher, and she has lost her son 2 years ago, and we can assume that maybe this boy, his son, was the same age as this adolescent Manny's son. And then after she couldn't recover from the, she has lost that her son has passed away, and she had some kind of addictional problems, so as to say. She's tunneling all the time, and it's very remarkable, very noticeable, the fact that when she's with Mommy's son, she has no problem. She can speak properly, fluently, so she's not very, very fluently, but she can. There is a situation very interesting because they live one in front of the others. Their houses were facing each other, and at a moment they are in the street, and in the street there was a line dividing the two scenes, the two parts of the street, and Kyla is on one side and the boy is on the other, and they are talking, no, together. But when she's talking to him, she has no problem at all. She can, her diction is perfect, she can speak fluently. But when she turns round, because the family, I mean, her daughter and her husband calls her, and she has to say some things. At that very precise moment, when she turns round, she begins to stammer. So as to say, it is as if when she is faced with reality, the reality that her son is not there anymore, she begins to with that problem of stammering. But when she talks to this boy, it is as if she's going back in her life, I mean, in the past, and it's a kind of neglection of that situation, of the loss she has passed by. Who is this woman? This woman is one that Dr. Brownstein would have called Madre Estrago. Estrago in English can be said as the damages, the destruction, the wrecks. That's the word. Wreck. That's kind of adjective we can say of that kind of mother that the only way they think their life is by means of destroying. I mean, that is as if death is in herself. These kind of mothers that only put their children or his child in the place of an object that completes her, they are phallus, but not in the sense of the object of their desire, so as one day they will be allowed to leave the house, to leave the family, and to become a subject and try their own lives. But that kind of mothers that only think about their children as if they were part of them, that the only motto in life is just to be there to serve them, and consider them as being a kind of object, a kind of relation perverted, a kind of an object that is being manipulated by them. Well, so as we can see, along this movie, we can see the reactions or effects of the attitude of three different mothers. One is Mommy, exactly, Diane, the other is Kyla, and the other one would be Diane's mother, who we don't know for certain, but we suppose that maybe she was the one that was with this girl, I mean with Mommy, was in a relationship of competition that didn't allow her own husband to separate Diane from the mother, so as to become a girl, to become a woman, being separate and at the same time nominated by this father to be a woman for society, and yes, somebody completely different from her mother, or at least being separate from them. So we can see in these three women, we can see that they are full of death, their desire, or they are ruled by this idea of death, although unconscious, of course. And the question that comes out from all this movie is not only what we were saying some moments ago, that the director is telling us what is the role of the government, of society, when some parents can't put limit and can't educate, or can't put, can't take their children in the process of becoming a subject. Is it advisable that the government took place, I mean, would be the one that would be in charge of this when the parents can't perform the function of making their children to become adults, accepting the rules and being citizens in the society. What we are seeing in this movie is what Michel Foucault denounced some time ago when he talks about biopolitics, the domination of the bodies, and this is what we are seeing in this movie. This is one of the questions, and the other is, as we can see, there are these three mothers that are ruled by this idea of death, and their desire is stunned by the idea of death. Can we enlarge this idea of death to all mothers? That is to say, does or do all mothers, the desire that typify them is the one of death? Well, those are questions to discuss, to think about, and well, I think this is what I can say about this movie, and we'll meet next time. Thanks and goodbye.